Yeah. Okay, today it's June 14, 2017, and we are meeting to discuss and evaluate the partnership for co-designing a new course. Present today are Tatiana.
Veerle.
Marlies.
And Aditya.
Okay, so welcome everyone. The first question for me would be, can you define the expectation that you had when you decided to engage in the partnership, when you applied?
Okay, that's a difficult question. Well, I think I expected, what did I expect? I expected that I was allowed to sort of work together with a teacher instead of, sort of working for them or for yourself, or I don't know. And like that the sort of dynamic would change a bit, that it was really a partnership and not was not about me having to deliver something or show my skills or something. I think that's what I expected most in terms of the partnership. And then in terms of content, I was really interested I want to know more about intercultural communication. That's also why I applied to do this. Yeah.
Okay.
I think mostly with content-wise, I had hoped to learn a bit about the content because it sounded really interesting, and the way this would like manifest itself, I also thought it was really interesting, and I kind of like expected that it would be a challenge, but like a nice kind of challenge to create something more or less concrete. And I guess that's mainly it.
Sorry, what do you mean with concrete? Creating something concrete?
Well, a course is fairly concrete in the sense that, I don't know, it is. And it would, I mean, other people will take the course. It's not that you're just like thinking about potentially and some ideas. It's kind of making those ideas workable.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Well, I kind of expected openness in the course, which has shown to be true, because there was no clear guideline on how you'd be, like what the outcome, I knew that we had to create a course, but I didn't really know exactly what form of documents we'd be creating or how it would be assessed. And that was also with the structure. I thought that interacting with the teacher in a group is very different from the teacher saying you have to do this and you have to do them. I also liked the fact that we could share readings if we wanted. I didn't do it that much because most of the readings I found we just able to talk to them in class or like in the sessions. But yeah, I expected openness mainly, and just the ability to not be bound to one structure.
For me as well, it is also the first time for me that I work like this with students. So I've read, of course, a lot of literature, so I knew more or less what challenges could there be, but also what type of dynamics could there be. But still, it's a chance and a challenge also for me. And I think that I really wanted it to see if you guys would change your perspective also, not only on the topic of being and becoming global citizens, but also have a different perception of learning and teaching in general. If that would also impact your own perception as learners.
Mm.
And so it was also one of the expectations. On the one side, more the aspect of creating a moment and an opportunity for students to engage in the community, but not a community outside the college, but at the college, and to serve other students in this way. And on the other hand, indeed, to see how this impacts you as persons, but also as learners.
Mm-hmm.
And in your case, Aditya, you said that indeed the expectation of openness were met.
Mm-hmm.
How was for you? Did your expectation come out?
Yeah, to some extent, but I think I did expect there to be a bit more structure and sort of that, you know, Tatjana, you would still sort of be guiding us towards towards what you wanted the course to look like, which is not what happened in the end. We were really free in sort of deciding what we wanted to do with it, and we really had to actively participate, which is kind of unique and something I'd never experienced before. So I guess that's why I didn't expect it, but that did happen.
Yeah, I can agree with you. But what was I going to say? Although we worked towards something workable, my expectations were that by the end of this we would have a concrete idea of what the course would look like, and we do kind of have that, but in my mind it was going to be kind of a finished product, which it's not yet, which is not necessarily a problem, but I did expect that at the beginning, at least. I think that's okay. And then what Vera said. Very similar, yeah.
And for you, openness was, of course, something.
Mm-hmm.
And anything else to add about expectations that were met or not met?
Well, I expected to learn some more about the content, but yeah, like Marlies mentioned, I expected to have some more of the course outline, but then some more of, for example, learning activities. We talked a lot about them, but we weren't able to finalize. Well, we have an idea of what it should be, but we don't really have something set in stone yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at some point I expected that too, that we'll end up with something finished, but I'm quite happy with the way it's not yet complete, because I think if we tried to choose a learning activity or something now, I don't think we would be doing the people who would take the course of service, because I think we need to research that a lot more before we do.
Yeah. Good. So, and do you think we should research more, or should it be open to the students taking a course?
I think it has to be, I think we have to do it because it's a course designed by us.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for the students it should be very clear what they're going to do, because they're not in an internship, they're more it's a normal course for them.
Yeah.
So I think it would be bad to have a lot of ambiguity. Obviously we would like them to have input, but not show them that we don't really have a structure just yet.
Okay.
But I mean, I think we have a year to iron that thing out.
Yeah.
So we'll be fine.
Yeah. And do you agree with Aditya?
In terms of what we present to the students, I don't think that what we have now is it. it needs to be refined more. And I think what you said, transparent. I think transparency towards students, like what is expected of them, is really important, and especially in a course like this where there is where you want input from students and where you want them to sort of have autonomy, but you have to be transparent about what you expect of them in return for that autonomy.
Okay.
If you
because they will be earning credits for it as well as grades.
And also, autonomy does not mean that you can be lazy and just, it is expected of them that they work hard. So that's what I think should be clear.
Yeah. And you mentioned already that you expected to collaborate with the teacher, something that was new. But how did you experience the collaboration for now in general with the whole group, me as a teacher and the group?
I thought as a group we worked well together. I don't know. I think we were all in a lot of aspects we were all sort of similar and we had similar ideas, but it was also nice to see that even though, because we all sort of come from different academic backgrounds, which is interesting because we could agree a lot on, for example, what we thought a global citizen was, or like what we as UCU students wanted this course to look like, which I thought was a really nice thing. And then again, we didn't agree on everything, but it was sort of it was a nice collaboration. I think there was room for dialogue, I suppose.
Again, agree. I do think quite a lot of us were a bit overwhelmed by how this added on top of our normal course load, or at least I was, and therefore I don't think, if we had more time, obviously, as always, things might have gone a bit more structured, a bit faster, a bit whatever. But since we were all kind of in the same situation, I think we did figure that out quite well. We got where we needed to be, so.
Yeah, I agree.
But I like working together with everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe with regards to that, the chair and secretary thing didn't work out as well as we had hoped it would, I think.
Yeah.
But it was a good idea. A good effort.
And why do you think it didn't work out well?
We didn't. I think we said that we would make a schedule, and then we didn't. And I think we should have discussed more how this was going to go before we started. And now we kind of just jumped into it.
Yeah.
True. I think it didn't really work because it wasn't. It also wasn't clear what was expected of the chair and the secretary. Secretary, like some people have chaired and been secretary a lot, like when they did committees or something, and other people maybe had never done it. So that was, I think, difficult, and also there wasn't a lot of pressure from the other people in the group, like to be a few days before a meeting, like, oh hey, can you post the agenda or something, or do we have minutes yet for the last meeting, blah blah. So that sort of added to why it didn't really work, I suppose. That we also didn't really expect that kind of work from each other, I suppose.
So you would say, for example, that this would be a recommendation for other group of people engaging in a co-design or in a partnership to make this type of practical agreements also part of the preparation. So to really be more explicit in...
make those kind of agreements early on, so that it's clear Of course, I thought it was nice that we had a lot of autonomy also in terms of the work that we had to do for this. But I think it would be nicer that it's clear what is expected of you. And it also gives you more motivation to actually do it. And in a construction where you indeed switch chair and secretary for meetings every week or every 2 weeks, that's a sort of example of one of those commitments that you make to when you do a thing like this. And I think it should be clear that if you wanted to do a thing like this, you have to commit.
Yeah.
And it would benefit the structure of the whole thing as well, which
exactly.
I think we kind of missed through that. Yeah.
So then it would be something that as a group you decide together and agree, but also, as you said, Verle, put some peer pressure on each other to do what is expected.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, about that, I think I have a very different view from Furla about the collaboration, because one of the things I really liked was that, I mean, some more structure in some ways would be really nice. But then, for example, the secretary post, I think that was not really necessary, because we switched from, I think we made a lot of practical adjustments along the way. So we switched from workspaces to Google Drive, which allowed all of us to type in one document. And the chair and secretary thing with the new arrangement wouldn't really have been necessary. So I think we adapted quite okay. The thing that I would think is that with that adaptation, I think we should have discussed the adaptations we were making and then change our roles accordingly, sort of.
Yeah. Maybe we were now kind of still waiting for something to happen, although we
So we had something that we were not doing because it didn't work, even though we had a practical solution that would have been okay, but we just didn't talk about it.
Yes. That, I think, is a good point, that we managed to adjust along the way and to work well. But indeed, maybe a suggestion would be to also take some time to reflect and to name these changes and why, and so that everyone is aware of it and on the same line. Yeah. For me, what I, for example, expected a bit more was indeed when the minutes are made, that they are more extended. So if you are looking back to some of the minutes of 2 or 3 meetings before, because you wanted to look up for something, they were very, very concise. So a lot of discussion is left away. And as we didn't record every session, I think that is also something that I expected to be, I think, more work it out. So maybe I could also have said, or I could have opened up the discussion and say, okay, shall we record the session? Because of course, recording 4 hours might seem very strange. Yeah. But still, now, if you want to go back to what has been discussed, there was so much that we did during each session, and then we have a very short record of that. That was, I think, my expectation.
But that's also why, I think that happened because it wasn't clear at each beginning of each meeting who was going to be the secretary, who was going to be the one taking notes, because I think people always underestimate taking notes because it's actually, especially if you have these kind of meetings that are really tense with a lot of people talking and discussing, you want that kind of you want that written down properly, and you want that recorded properly. So I think having a chair and a secretary for each meeting is important, and for us it didn't work, which is too bad. But if you want to have a kind of construction like that in a future partnership like this, again, then I think it should be important that this is agreed on beforehand. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I thought that it might even be a good idea to have an external minute taker, because when you are so involved in the discussion and in the exercises that we did, and so you are participating and taking really extensive note is difficult. So if you don't have a recording, maybe having an external note taker that is only focusing on that could be a good idea for a good suggestion for someone else
because
doing
that's what I found myself when I was supposed to be, note taking.
Yeah.
I found it hard to engage into the discussion because I couldn't and think about what people were saying and write it down at the same time and respond. That's
that's
that
why
was too difficult.
indeed I also have very little notes of myself, and I'm supposed, of course, to keep a diary also for my research, but I find it very difficult to be part of the conversation and take notes. So that's why I think maybe that's also a good thing to consider for our next time, that there should be someone only focusing on that if you don't want to record a long session.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay, so what has been the most challenging for you? Can you describe it? And also how you overcome it and how you manage to.
Most challenging, I think I found, because before I started, I thought I had at least a little bit of knowledge about, especially the content of the course that we were creating. But then I realized, somewhere through, I think it was meeting 2 or 3, that I actually do not have a lot of knowledge about intercultural communication and in global citizenship. So that, and I also found some of the readings that we were supposed to do, I found them actually quite difficult. And I didn't always have time to read them properly. Because of course I was doing 2 other courses in my thesis, so that was one challenge. One challenge was the content and the sort of different, I suppose, academic perspective or different, different methodology that I wasn't used to in those papers, and also time management for me. But and how I overcame those, I think I just tried to, in terms of content, I just tried to take it at my own pace and make sure that I at least had sufficient. Well, I tried in the discussions, in the meetings, I just tried to bring in whatever I knew, and also from my personal experience, or what I had experienced in other courses at UCU. So and then in terms of time management, I mean, that's a issue that that I have more often in my life. So that's just something that I just try to plan better, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think that I was also a bit overwhelmed. I don't know if that's the right word, but by the amount of time that I still had to put in it, which obviously I could have expected, but didn't. And that's maybe not only from the part of this thing, but also from the part of, for example, my thesis.
Yeah.
Because it's something I had never done before either. So that was one thing. Maybe another that I had forgotten to take into account, maybe that not all the things that we would be doing would be as much fun as the other, as the next thing, but that these things also have to happen.
So what did you find less and very enjoyable?
I liked when we started getting into the more practical parts, so the alignment exercise and actually thinking about how this would come together. And I also liked when we were talking about, for example, the definition of global citizenship, when we were just more directly involved with kind of the concepts and the course itself, kind of. But then obviously we needed some background information, not in the sense that I didn't want the background information, but more that, you know, you need to read for that, and we needed to discuss certain things for quite a long time in order to all understand it and be on the same page so that we could move on. And yeah, I think that's mostly.
Okay, thank you.
I think for me, it was like the practical aspects were quite challenging. So sometimes meeting up with other people, doing the tasks that we talked about in class. Like we mentioned, we didn't really keep a solid minutes. And yeah, I think that made it quite vague when I went back and wanted to do some of the work. I found myself constantly asking the other people what had to be done, or were like who was doing what. So I think that was a bit challenging. Content-wise, yeah, I found the readings to be interesting, but I didn't really understand the usefulness of them until after the task that was assigned to that meeting was done. So even when I did the readings, I had no idea how they would connect. So that was a bit. Also, I think sometimes it was challenging to have all these sort of vague discussions, but then know that at the end we would actually want a product. So a lot of times I was not sure how the discussion would lead into something practical.
Okay. And then at the end, do you think that it did lead to something practical, so that the discussion has fed into what we have done?
Yeah, I think it's just the fact that we didn't go directly from A to B, but like took a more wandering curved path. And in my head, that was not exactly how I had envisioned it was going to be. But I'm happy that like we made it close to where we wanted to be. And I think it has taught me dealing with other people's opinions and kind of finding a common path which might be different to my own. Because we spent a lot of time talking about global citizenship, but when I thought of designing a course, in my head I would go from like, okay, let's first get the learning objectives down. Then we look at the activities, the content, and then we design the course. But I didn't really grasp the significance of like doing those theoretical discussions.
Okay, from the learning objectives. For me, I think the biggest challenge was indeed to not act upon your indeed uncertainties, because I saw, of course, how things went when you start asking around on Messenger, oh, what are we supposed to do? Who is supposed to be here and do what and when? Or who is going to make the minutes? But it was very tempting, of course, from my perspective as a teacher, to step in. But that was a big challenge to say, okay, no, we are together, so we need to solve this together and see how this will develop. Because indeed, only when you yesterday, Marlies, asked me, can you maybe make an agenda because you probably have a better idea at this moment of what still needs to be done, I started in. But that was also sometimes also very difficult for me to not take an initiative, or so take the initiative like you did, send a link or say, okay, maybe we could read this article, because of course, as you said fairly, you don't have a huge overview of all the literature and all the theory that are there, but not more than that, to still live it as a collaboration. And that was from time to time indeed quite challenging. And I also didn't want to say, okay, I want to have longer minutes of more elaborate if no one else was bringing it up. But indeed, maybe that's also a lesson to be learned here, that this type of thing, whoever has them, should be explicit. Maybe at the beginning of the next session, you could say, okay, from the previous session, this is what I've learned, or this is what I think could be improved in terms of dynamics, in terms of process. Maybe not on the content, but really the process. But I didn't want to be the one to say it every time.
But at the same time, I think from our side, we kind of knew that you had an idea of what this was and what needed to be and what needed to be the end result. And that, but that's still, it's like a two-way kind of thing. Because we, obviously it was your kind of idea, you initiated this, and we kind of added on to that. But still, obviously as a teacher, you're more aware of what it's like to make a course. Or at least what a course exists of, and therefore, or at least from this level.
And that's also what I think maybe I was missing from the beginning a little bit. What was expected of us in that sense as well, is sort of also be critical of the other people in your group, and being able to say, hey, can you maybe, make the minutes a bit more elaborate, or, and that, and that's really difficult because you're not used to this kind of dynamic. You're used to the dynamic where the teacher is like, where the teacher gives you feedback and usually not student to student. So that's also something that I was sort of missing from the beginning, of maybe that we were allowed to do that in this this kind of format.
Probably one thing that could have helped, or maybe that indeed is a suggestion for if you do it once more, is to really write down a kind of not contract, but indeed a list of rules and expectations that you discuss together, and then from time to time you may want to revise. Indeed, the chair and as you said, Aditya, the chair and secretary didn't really work well. Why not? Should we change and to a different form, or should we define better what the tasks are? So to really make this more explicit, because we had all expectations, but they weren't really explicited to each other. Now, I thought on the opposite, that as you are in classes, usually quite indeed critical to good teaching, good learning environments, good dynamics, you usually can bring up things. I expected that would come if it was needed. So that's why I didn't want to step in and say, okay, now we are going to do like this, or this is what I want to do. I expected it. But indeed, this is also maybe my expectation, but you were taken from out of your comfort zone as giving each other as peers some feedback to be in a situation where there is also a teacher involved in a different dynamic. So maybe also my expectations were a bit too high, or just not as precise as I had expected. But that's a good point to reflect on for the next time. And because of this new dynamics and challenges, and so were there skills, behaviors, content that were really new and were very different from what you have experienced so far? And can you give some examples of that?
I think we did mention some.
I did mention already sort of the kind of literature that we had to read. I wasn't used to reading those kind of literature with all the kind of So that's definitely something I've learned. I've learned just more sort of field specific. Skills or content or some in terms of that. And I don't know if anyone else has anything to add. Maybe if someone says something, we'll come up with. I agree.
Yeah, I think we've mentioned a lot, but like this specifically, I wouldn't actually know what to say.
For example, the group dynamic, was it, you already mentioned it, but the fact that I was involved as a teacher made it different for you? Or was the class and the group dynamic, not the class, but the group dynamic, open and safe enough to really be able to function as collaborators? Because that's, of course, one of the challenges of such a type of partnership, that you want to break down this power dynamics, the teacher and students, but was this happening? Or did you have to also get used to it?
Well, at the same time, I think it worked well in the sense, in some sense of how we divided tasks, and that kind of did happen. But at the same time, I feel such a thing would work much better, and obviously that's not what happened here, and that's not a problem, but that just is. From the fact that this was your idea and your kind of project, if I can say that, and that we kind of just came here to help you with that, and in that sense, I feel like it's fairly hard for that power relation relation, but that to even stop existing, because that's just how it is. This is not necessarily our project as much as it is your project. So, and that's just how it is.
Indeed, if it was a project that you start together, so indeed it's
and that's obviously hard, especially in this case, to think of how that. But then, obviously, I see a lot of the problems that we're talking about now wouldn't exist.
Yeah. Okay. But did you feel then, Marlies, that do you feel that you somehow own the product at the end? Or is it still something that is very much representing and reflecting what I want to do or wanted to do?
I don't know. I mean, obviously we all worked on this for a semester, so but since I don't know, also because I'm leaving as well, I feel like it's kind of still, we helped you in starting this up and making this a thing that is made by students and teachers alike. So in that sense, yes, and no at the same time. That's very complex.
And what about you, Aditya? For example, do you feel that you own it, or do you have a different experience from
I do
Marlies?
think I own it. Yeah. Like, I felt like, as Marlies mentioned, so for some things the group dynamic was very easy to work with, and for some things not. So I felt like while discussing during the meetings, I think it was very open and very easy to talk. But I think with the work expectation, I do think that, and many times I felt like it was your direction and that we were moving in the direction that was given to you, but that might be just because you started the project. And I think with maybe a different way to negotiate what we're going to come up with, like what the expectations are at the end of the course, I think that could be changed, because at the beginning of the course, even though I knew that we'd be working to establish a new course, I didn't really know what exact form this would be in. So how the course outline would be structured. So I think having those things ready before the start would make it easier because we would be all on the same page. So we know we have to create, let's say, a 5-page document with course outline, write a reflection paper.
Yeah.
We wouldn't really just be thinking one thing and then after that have to re-talk with the group and then figure out a different direction. Even though that's adaptation, that's nice.
Yeah.
But then if we already know where we want to end up, I think it'd be nice to just have it out there in the beginning.
So,
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree
okay.
with Aditya. I just had a thought, but I lost it again.
for me, I thought on the opposite, that I was not directing the direction of the end product that much, and that's why I didn't say, okay, this is how it should look at the end. So I found it somehow difficult to really understand what you mean with negotiating it a bit more, because now I thought that it was really completely open.
Yeah. I mean, it was open, but I think I still didn't feel. I thought the openness worked really well in class settings, but I think I'm just used to like things I take at college to lead somewhere, and I think that was really hard. Like, was I just here to talk about global citizenship? Was I here to create a new course? Was I here to read the literature? It was just all of these tasks. I didn't really know how to connect them, and I think the teacher-student dynamic played into it, because I thought as a teacher, you know what you're doing. You know you have somehow these 4 or 5 different elements connected, and you have a plan. I think that was, even though you didn't actively say it, I think it's just part of the dynamic that I just assumed that it was there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I have similar feelings because, well, yeah, I think it was still difficult to sort of not have this dynamic, because obviously in terms of intercultural communication, Tatiana, you're like, already knew so much and I knew so little, so that made it really difficult for me to sort of feel like it was my place to add anything, or at least in terms of especially academic content, because it's not really, I'm not an expert at all, so I could be completely wrong, and then so that's what made it really difficult to sometimes feel like you were allowed to well, I mean, in the class discussion, in the discussions in the meetings, I did feel that it was very open, and we were basically just allowed to discuss anything and to add in our personal opinions and experiences. But I think especially in terms of content, that I feel that even though you felt like you sort of let us free and let us be open, that I didn't really feel that way, I suppose, because I still felt like you were the expert.
Yeah.
So
I think that, reflecting back, one of the things that may have created this is the fact that when I envisioned the partnership, it was over one full semester. It was indeed supposed to be a honor seminar. Then you have really a lot of time, and then also to go more in depth in the readings, also for you, because that would be one course that you take together with only 3 others, not on top of. So indeed, this was would have given everyone the time to delve into the content, and then maybe to indeed feel more entitled to say, and you can ask Carla how it feels when you are really having so much time to read, and maybe needed to have some guest speakers and everything. So probably this is why now it still felt like I was the expert, and you read and you gave input, but you didn't feel
Yeah,
Mm.
it
Maybe
was
that you,
all
yeah.
very much on the surface. Yeah.
Okay, so good. So this is also important, an important lesson, I think, for designing something like that. That if people are not selected because they know already the theories, and so there needs to be enough time to make the content and theories and the knowledge your own, so that you can contribute on a more equal basis.
Yeah.
Okay, then that's a good point to consider. Also to have time. I think that Chiara, I can quote Chiara all the time because she has these very beautiful philosophical quotes, Chiara Rubiano, and she always said that thoughts have time to ripen. You need really to let them sink, and then go back to them and have the time to consider them, and not to formulate ideas in a very quick way. So indeed, time to make the content your own is important. Yeah. So that you feel really entitled to give your opinion and as an equal.
Yeah.
On an equal level. Okay. Good. It's a good point. And we are still designing the practicalities of the new course, but how do you feel about what we have designed so far? So the premises that we have, the goals that we created, and the type of activities that we are envisioning.
I think, in terms of like in terms of how much time we spent, especially the last few meetings, I think we've been very productive. And because I don't know, I felt that the pace at the beginning in the first few meetings was quite slow, and we're still conceptualizing a lot. And towards the end, it was really sort of like we were really coming together and making something concrete. And I think, we've already come a long way compared to a few meetings ago, I suppose. So that's how I feel that we've and I think we've really come up with some nice ideas about new ways to learn, and I think that's also what's going to make this course unique and interesting, and what's going to make students want to take it. Good,
Yeah, Marlies?
Yeah, I agree. The experiential learning, critical reflection, and all of these, I think, make the course really unique and necessary. That's my
I like it. I think it's quite promising, all the activities that we talked through. I think personally I would like to do a more thorough analysis of this activity is going to take them, let's say, 3 or 4 hours to complete, and then assign the percentages the grade percentages that we just kind of put them in there, talk about them a little more. So like we have a basic idea of what the course is going to do, but more put a timetable to it, plan it a bit more, but that's...
No, but that's indeed just too much for such a short time, especially because you have all 4 other courses. And so hopefully there will be something that can be done maybe in a shorter setting next semester, because this is indeed the next step. That you really say, okay, to reach this goal, these are the activities, and then you specify time, what students should be or should be expected to do. So indeed that you design the full syllabus. But indeed it needs a lot of time. also just making a selection of activities, but hopefully this is something that you may still want to be involved in next semester. And so, because it's quite a lot of work. Yeah. And
I hear.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really annoying. Okay.
In terms of indeed exercise and things that helped or that were really good to do, we discussed, I think, during the other meeting as well, that the alignment exercise was, I think, a kind of turning point from conceptualizing to going into in the design. Were there other activities or moments that you thought, okay, this is a very helpful or useful task or activity?
Helpful in the sense.
That you thought, okay, by doing this activity, I can understand better, or I now have the feeling that we are moving along, or that we are really designing something. So I know that the alignment exercise was really for everyone.
Looking at the
said.
course objectives, maybe.
Yeah.
Pretty crucial part.
Yeah, probably the more towards the end activities that we did. Really sort of making everything, like when we started making things more concrete, like in a course outline and coming up with objectives, outcomes, that really made that the stuff that we did in the beginning started to make sense to me.
Yeah.
Because before that, and maybe also the way we started with sort of our coming up with our working definition of global citizenship. I actually thought it was really nice that we started with that, because it really gave us an opportunity to delve into the material a bit more and get reading a bit more, but also adding our own personal experience, and that's what I thought was nice. But those activities in the end really made it easier to understand why we did all of that, but why we had to do all of that beforehand. So that wasn't really clear to me before.
For me, I think the time when Sebastian and I went together to make the diagram, I think that made it very visual for me, because before that it was all just a bunch of bullet points with stuff we needed, but also stuff we didn't need. But then pruning that to something visual made it very easy for me to understand.
Yeah.
Also, when we put together the course outline that we discussed last week, even though it's quite short for what we need, but I think it highlighted the main points that were going to be there.
Yeah. Course. So, the alignment exercise. And indeed, the practical decision, taking practical decision, putting them on paper, elaborating on them, course outline. Yeah. Okay. And one of the questions that I also have is indeed, is your perception now of teaching and learning and your role as a teacher, as a learner especially, changed? Did working on pedagogy impacted how you see yourself as a learner and your vision of learning and teaching?
I think to some extent it did change it a bit, because especially because in this partnership we were given a lot more autonomy and a lot more responsibility, I suppose. And I don't know, it sort of really made me appreciate my education, I suppose. And I know maybe in my first year I took it more for granted that, I was able to go to university and just do this. And now I think it has changed more into really appreciating that I'm, able to have this kind of education and that, and also in terms of again, sort of feeling social responsibility as well. Like, even though I'm not going to be taking this course, I still think I take away from what we discussed is important for UCU students to learn. And as I am a UCU graduate soon, or am already, that, I should take away from this myself as well, and also, act upon my feelings of responsibility towards community, or, so yes, that's what I think I learned from this.
And with regards to the teaching, more like an insider's look into what needs to be thought about.
And I think also what it's like to be a teacher, and how much work it actually is to be a teacher. I think students often don't realize that teachers usually work way harder than students, and I don't know. Sometimes I would self-pity because I was so busy and had so much work, but teachers do even more, I think.
Yeah, for me, I think in the process of learning, it highlighted the link between effort and the feeling of getting something out of it. Because the weeks in this internship where I put effort in, I felt much more satisfied, and I felt like I had a lot more to contribute. Some weeks I was busy, so I didn't do all of the readings. I was kind of catching up, so I think that is something I can take away and apply it to my other courses.
Yeah. And do you think that you will look at courses in a different way when you will take other courses, either here or outside? Would you have a different perspective, as you said, maybe a more inside perspective? You think that you can apply it also to other courses, and that would help or not in studying, or?
Yeah, I suppose. I think I would maybe look at a course where, well, I've always enjoyed courses where you sort of have this kind of autonomy. Like, I always enjoyed giving presentations, being able to choose your own topic for an essay that you have to write or something like that. So I suppose I would look for that now. Well, I don't know if I would look for it more than I already did, but I don't know. Because I personally don't have the chance to take this course, I guess. Because if I would, I would, but I don't. But I don't know. I am actually thinking about maybe still doing the master's in intercultural communication, but I don't know.
I don't know, so I'm not entirely sure if I would. Maybe, as I said, because I know what maybe might be behind it. Yeah. When I read a course outline, I might realize kind of the importance, like the thought that has gone into it, and therefore that it actually says something about the course. I mean, the objectives aren't just there. Yeah. Kind of those kind of aspects, but I don't know if I. Maybe but not that. Yeah.
You don't know yet.
And the kind of like the experiential learning also that we want to put in this course, I don't think it's applicable to everything, to like every academic field. So that's of course difficult. Yeah. Say you go into something that to which is not really applicable, then you
I don't know if I would look at courses in a different light, because I think they're still courses. You get a outline, you have something expected of you, but I do think that the process of doing this internship, the partnership project, I think I've realized that a lot of people have assumptions about the other person's role, and I think in a lot of courses now that I look back, I think the teacher would have been happy with more participation from the students. And I think since I know that participation and like doing things on your own is quite valuable, I might be more inclined to say things when I feel like they're missing rather than just relying on the teacher to provide the direction.
Yeah.
So I think I might just take it up with the teacher, email them, ask other students to see if that the question I have about the process is if there's a direction for it, if we're supposed to do it.
So address the teacher more often when you see something that is not addressed or expectations that are not explicit and that can cause some misunderstandings. But probably it's a question that I may ask you in 1 year time. Indeed, I was more thinking of as a learner, will you see more the link between an assignment that a teacher has made and a goal of the course, but it's something that you need first to experience, and maybe that's why it's a question that is more interesting after 1 year. And maybe can you evaluate a course in a different way when you understand more than this alignment, if there is or not. Because maybe there are courses where the alignment is not as clear or is not there, and then because now it's more, I think, in most evaluation is very much personal. Do you like this teaching style or not? Or so, but but okay. So maybe in 1 year I will interview again and see this aspect. And you mentioned it already fairly that one of the things that you're taking with you is indeed this sense that if you feel a responsibility towards society, you maybe should also act upon it. So how do you see now your role in the world? Is a partnership change your perspective on indeed your responsibility to others and to the world at global and local level?
I think maybe it's just like also just now graduating and having to think about what I'm going to do in the future, and doing this partnership like at the same time, that sort of has caused me to start think about like what do I want to do, what kind of mark do I want to leave on the world, do I want to leave a mark at all, do I just so that's and I mean, and the kind of masters that I'm going to do, like how is that going to affect my life but also the life of others? And I haven't figured it out yet, but I do think I want to, like, maybe I also learned that maybe doing volunteer work is as important as just having a job, or maybe, I mean, I'm trying to look for a summer job right now, and I'm maybe trying to look for something that is, also more valuable in that sense, like in a social sense. I don't know. That I'm more critical of that, I suppose, than I was before.
Yeah, it's a nice quote. More critical on yourself.
On how I want to live my life, what kind of things I also want to do besides just studying or making career or whatever.
Okay, thanks. And Melissa?
I don't think it changed much about how I look at that. It might have to do with the fact that I am an anthropology and international development studies major, in the sense that talking about social change and responsibility I have done extensively before, and I would like to think that I have always kind of wanted that to be part of what I do later, also because it seems to be more the nature of what I'm studying. But for now I don't know if it has, also because content wasn't necessarily as big of a part. that content related. I mean, I learned a bit about pedagogy and that kind of thing, but we didn't focus all that much on
Okay, so indeed,
social responsibility.
it's just a bit more confirmed than what you have already.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. At the conference at the start of before we started even was a nice conference.
Yeah.
Don't know if I would connect that to the partnership per se.
Yeah.
Well, I went there because of it, so I guess it was quite inspirational and nice. But
Good. Yeah. So it's more a confirmation for what you have already learned and how you envision yourself in the world already.
Yeah, but although I don't know if it is the partnership per se that confirmed it.
No.
Because I don't feel we focused all too much on the specifics of that.
Okay. Okay. And for you, Aditya?
Yeah, I don't know if I can chalk it down to the partnership, but I think it's more just generally growing up. You sometimes look back and you kind of want to know what you're doing here.
Yeah.
It sounds existentialist. But I mean, sometimes as a student, I think I'm busy with 10,000 different things, but is it really useful? And I think the content of the internship served to highlight some of those questions I have, I guess, that I haven't answered.
And so I think that for me, what I got out of the discussion is indeed, as you said, fair, that I also question more and more indeed my role as an intellectual. Indeed, do I still want to be at the safer side and go on with teaching my own stuff, or do I also want to engage myself more, maybe like I used to be when I was at your age? And I was in a political party. I was marching out in the streets and in front of shops, for example, where the labor conditions were bad, things like that, you know. And I've been thinking, also because of the content and because of the theories that we have been discussing, what is the role of me in higher education as an intellectual and as a teacher? What is the legacy that I want to give students and to give also my organization in relation to society? So for me, it's also worked like that. It's maybe not something new, especially also because I've been dealing with this content and with these theories for some while now, but still thinking of putting students in the condition to do this experiential learning. It brings also a lot of questions for me as a teacher. Okay, how is my course going to be ethical? How do I make sure that indeed we are genuine and we are working in a way that is not only ethical and sustainable, but is also bringing something to everyone, to us and to others. So I think this was for me also interesting to see and to think about together with you on this type of questions. So a big question, and it might be difficult to answer, or maybe very easy for you, is if you haven't participated to the partnership, would your life be different now?
I don't think it would be drastically different. But yeah, like I said in the answer to the before, it has changed my mindset a little bit. But I'm not sure if there would really be something that I would have decided or that I wouldn't have decided now.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
Of course, and it's not something that lasted a full program of 3 years or something. So, but still, but it made some impact on your way of seeing yourself and your role. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Mandis?
For now,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I don't think so, but it's also definitely too early to say.
Yeah,
If at all, yeah.
And you, Aditya?
Yeah, I think every week I look forward to actually being in one of these meetings. I thought they were almost kind of meditative because you're not really. I mean, you have things you want to say, and I felt like you could criticize and comment on other people's work without feeling weirdly about it. So I think that was a very welcome change, and I think that has made me. Usually, sometimes I have criticisms, but I don't really voice them in other cases, and I think this has made me more open to just being honest about certain criticisms that I have. But I'm not really sure if my life would be very different,
Yeah.
but I think I did notice a few things, just a few moments of like the sense of pride that, I'm doing something because I want to learn about it rather than I'm doing something because it's part of my course program.
As you said in the beginning, and not something that you're doing for, you have to show skills or something, but you are doing something also for yourself, because you want to do it.
Exactly.
And is there anything that we didn't discuss that you would like to add? That you think it's important to say or to know?
Not really.
Not from my side.
No.
Not entirely, no, but I think, just one point is about the structure, which is, I think, like the lack of structure facilitated some conversations, but I think it also made it sort of sometimes very vague in our heads. So I think there might be a somehow better way of like having structure in some things and some things not, that might improve the efficiency of like people working together. I'm not really sure what it is, but
Maybe making it a bit more sort of goal directed from the beginning. I agree with you that it was sometimes hard to see where we were going with things.
Okay. So I think that the more general lesson that we can take out of it to improve something like that, maybe to have it also as a recommendation to others if we write a paper or for the presentation, is indeed that there should be room, especially at the beginning, but also while the partnership is going on, to make expectation more explicit, to together decide what are the goals, what are the long-term goals, and maybe indeed the mid-terms and short-term goals, so that maybe not completely directed by the teacher, but at least made explicit and discussed and revised if necessary. That would have made it a bit easier to cope with.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.